Hand side of the screen. Back to that editorial I delivered at the top of the hour. President Trump seems to be at war with his own party. Let's bring in Edwin Feulner, Heritage Foundation president, a friend of the show. Sir, welcome back. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Stuart. Happy to be back with you.
I say the president is going to win. Because if Congress does nothing, he says, you failed. It's your fault. If Congress does something, he says, I did it. I take the credit. I pushed for this. He's going to win, isn't he?
He's going to win either way, Stuart. But let me say this. I think there's a lot of room for praise going all around town. And if we can just get people to add and multiply and not divide and subtract on these major policy issues, we'll all be a lot better off.
Do you think the president would be better off if he didn't call Jeff Flake toxic, for example, or Lindsey Graham a publicity-seeking kind of guy? Should he stop doing that, you think?
Well, I saw Lindsey Graham on your network right after the Afghanistan speech, and there was nobody more supportive of Donald Trump than Lindsey Graham was. So I think you've got to, again, look for the positive things and build up a momentum. When you and I last talked, and we talked about Sonny Perdue and other senators standing next to him talking about how to reform immigration, I thought, wow, the president's getting it. He now understands that you've got to work with the people, Tom Cotton and people like that, on the Hill to get things done. So there's both good and bad signs. Part of the problem is when the whole town shuts down in August, we get all distracted and we start talking about arguments instead of numbers. And we got enough numbers we got to deal with in September with the budget and the debt and appropriations and all the other big items coming up, tax reform. So that's what we really should be focusing on.
Now, President Trump's going to start what I'm calling a barnstorming tour on tax reform. He starts next week. Wednesday goes to Missouri and on from there. You think that helps?
I think it's absolutely going to help. Claire McCaskill is one of the endangered Democrats. She has that Senate seat. She's had it now. This is the end of her second term. And this is a good place for him to start because Missouri is home to a lot of real strong Trump people, and I'm sure Senator Roy Blunt, who's part of the leadership, will be there and will be at his side and saying, yes, we've got to have real tax reform.
He's building momentum, isn't it? I mean, it reminds me actually of Ronald Reagan. Now, President Reagan did not barnstorm the country, but he did make, I think, at least one Oval Office address, literally 3 weeks after he was shot, to push for tax reform. I think that helped back then.
It really did, and of course, at that point, he had to have a bipartisan majority. He had to work with Tip O'Neill in the House because the Democrats control both the House and the Senate, and so he had to pull everybody together. And I think that's what, I hope that's what President Trump is learning, that if we're really going to get these things going, let's put the pressure on the weak spots, let's bring them along, and let's try to add and multiply and not divide and subtract.
Last one. Looks like it's narrowing down to tax cuts for individuals, tax cuts for corporations. That's what you want to see?
That would be, what a 10-strike that will be, not only for Donald Trump, but for all conservatives here in Washington. And that's where we should all be headed, and that's where we should be working together.
Edwin Feulner, Heritage. Thanks for joining us, sir. We always like it.
Stuart.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.